Well, I decided to hop back in the truck and head out west. I've just been having so much fun out here in the Dakotas. It doesn't matter if it's a Missouri River tournament we had earlier, did a little filming out in North Dakota earlier this year. But right now, it's definitely a lot cooler than it was earlier this year. And I'm just having so much fun with that finisher on forward-facing Sonar. But the water temperatures have dropped. I'm not so sure, what my cadence is gonna need to be on that finisher, if I'm gonna have to switch up a few baits. But I'm looking forward to getting out here, trying to figure it out. And why don't you join me today as I show you the next bite.
Just looking for the next bite, next bite, next bite, next bite. Just looking for the next bite.
As the water cools in the Midwest, it's hard to beat the Dakotas and its many fishable waters. Whether it's a large reservoir or a small lake, the opportunity for catching lots of walleyes is endless. When the fish are a little bit deeper in the fall, it's a great time to learn more about fish behavior and how they react to your baits using forward-facing sonar, especially in a target-rich environment like the Dakotas.
Well, right now it's fall. We had a pretty cool morning this morning, but it's finally starting to lay down and it's getting actually pretty nice. And but one thing's for sure, the water temperature has really cooled down some. And it really seems like today the fish aren't on the points, or they're not even on like the weed edge. They're almost just off of it. Maybe it's in between the 2 points where there's a cup, or on the weed edge I've seen it on a flat just off of the weeds where those fish are out just a little bit deeper cruising around. So right now it's starting to get nice. Generally in the fall, those fish really pick up activity in the afternoon, and I'm just starting to figure a few things out. Oh, holy cow, I got him. Come on, get up here. I want to see what this is. He chased me like 15 feet the first time and kind of denied me. So I dropped it right back down. He got another good look at it, and I got him gonna basically start running after it. Oh, it's a big walleye. Look at the size of that thing. Cow, it is a walleye. The thing is huge. Get in here. Oh, cow. This thing is a toad. Oh my gosh. What a beast. Holy cow. I was thinking maybe northern pike, or obviously hoping for a giant walleye, but I was so glad I didn't give up hope on that one. Look at that thing. It was just one of those things where I had them chasing up to it a couple times, and the one time it came really fast, and I thought there's no way it wasn't gonna bite. And then it basically went back down, and so I just let my bait free fall, and I just started shaking and shaking and shaking it. And just like that, he started coming, and once he got him running, I just started reeling slow, shaking it away from all, and here it was. Holy cow, this thing is huge. Let's get this girl back.
The next bite is brought to you by Mercury Marine, Go Boldly, Schaefer's Specialized Lubricant, Putting Equipment First, Nitro Boats, Performance Fishing Boats, Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. Berkeley, your fish, our science. And Power Pole, Total Boat Control. Closed captioning for the next bite is provided by Whitewater. Built to brave the waves. Forward-facing sonar can be extremely effective for many different reasons. One of the least talked about is being able to see the mood of the fish when they're reacting to your bait and your cadence. Often you can tell very easily whether you're moving your bait too fast or too slow, making it an easier decision to make changes either to your cadence or your bait.
One thing I'm doing right now is I'm cruising along pretty quick, say at that 1.5 to almost 2 miles an hour, but I'm just trying to cover water. I'm bouncing on the inside weed edge, you know, that's up in there in that 5 to 10 foot of water range, but also sliding out a little bit deeper. There seems to be some brush out in that, you know, 15 to 25, 30 foot range, but I've been really using side imaging to tell me what's inside or outside. But at the end of the day, the active target and forward-facing sonar is really helping me hone in on where exactly those fish are and how many are around. Because right now I just haven't been seeing a lot, but the ones I've seen have kind of been in that middle range. They haven't been up on the weeds and they haven't been out on the brush. They're kind of just cruising those flats. And so immediately I realized that the finisher was a little too fast of a bait. They just didn't want to keep up with it. They seem kind of slow and lethargic, the fish that I've casted at so far. And that's one thing I really love making adjustments with active target is the baits that I'm using. Immediately I seen the response I got from the first few fish, and I just, you know, changed it to a technique that I could fish even slower. And that would be the jig head in this drip minnow that I'm using today. And so, but also in that same option, I love to have a few different weighting options for jig heads. Say if I'm fishing in 10 feet of water versus 30, I'm gonna have a little bit bigger jig head. And to me, an 1/8 ounce does a great job, especially I can slow that down, but I'm kind of limited to that maybe 15 foot range with that 1/8 ounce. So a lot of times I have up to that 1/4 ounce to even 3/8 ounce if I'm maybe 30 feet or deeper. So at the end of the day, I love using forward-facing sonar for not only finding the fish, but really making a quick adjustment based off the mood that I'm seeing on there. That's the one. Here he comes. There he is. There was 2 of them fighting over at that time. I guess my couple bad casts made perfect timing. Oh yeah, nice walleye. Grab that. There's a 2-pack of them there, almost fighting for it. Get in here. Yeah. That's a nice one there. There's nothing better when you get 2 of them competing for it, and it just makes things a lot easier, you know. At that point, I was really casting at one fish. Made a couple bad casts, just, you know, couldn't quite get pinpointed on exactly where he was, and then by that time, after those couple mistakes, 2 of them got together and I made the right cast, and it was instant. As soon as I got in front of them, just twitched it a couple times, shaking it, and boom, this thing hit it. Well, that's an awesome fish. Let's get her back.
Total Control, presented by Power Pole. 20 years of trust evolved from Total Boat Control.
You know, well, we talk a lot about efficiency and using our active target to be super precise, you know, make an individual cast to fish. But at the end of the day, being in the right areas and being even more efficient is combinationing all that with side imaging. Let's face it, this is king of efficiency. This is gonna cover a massive amount of water very fast. You know, I'm idling at almost 4 miles an hour here. I'm covering 120 feet to my right, 120 feet to my left, and what I'm doing is just going along an edge right now, and I'm just looking for life. In this particular flat mud bottom on this side here of this brake line, if there's any life out there, right? Like, just get me in the area that I know that there's some life or some fish, and then when I drop the active target down in the bow, I can start scanning around and then pinpoint casting. But if I can cover water at 4 miles an hour right now, cover 120 feet each way, by just kind of getting me in the right area, this is even more efficient. It's kind of putting all the pieces together. And, you know, let's face it, I'm just coming across some boulders right now. It's side imaging can kind of be hard to tell, you know, what's hanging around that boulder, but as long as I know that there's a boulder right here, I can double back on that and see that cluster of boulders with active target and really decipher if there's anything in there and just pick away as I need. But let's just use everything in combination and you're going to be the most efficient angler on the water.
It's common to immediately reach for a glide bait like the Finisher or a swim bait like the Champ Swimmer. But more often than not, as the water cools, the fish want something much more subtle. In the past, it's even come down to using something as subtle as a Pro Grub, Berkley's version of a twister tail. Because of this, they've been working on more subtle action baits to use when the water cools.
There he is. Let's see. Yes. Oh yeah, a long and skinny one there. It's just so awesome. When these things bite, it's like the whole bait has been in the mouth. But I've just been using this perch color here. Obviously in North Dakota, there's a ton of perch. It's kind of the main forage of all these fish. But let's get this one back here. Oh. See you, bye. Oh, there she goes. You know, one thing I've been doing is just because I kind of have a couple different rods ready depending on the depth I'm in, but I've just been lightening up the jig a little bit. It doesn't seem like these fish want it to be moving too fast, and so that way I can really hover it and stall it right in front of them. So I've just gone to a lighter, this is a 3/16, and I have a quarter ready, but I was using 3/8, and it was just too fast. It fell too fast, it moved too fast, and I just kind of had to adapt with the water temperature. So I lightened up the jig and definitely gotten a lot more bites. So the bait that the majority of the fish I've been taking have been coming on is this one right here. And this is the 4-inch drip swimmer on a 1/4 ounce head. But not only just any 1/4 ounce head, this is a 1/4 ounce with a 4/0 size hook, a lot longer shank hook to match this longer bait. It's really important to have a hook that goes at least midway back through the bait, especially on these bigger fish, to really get a good hook in them. It's called the hybrid jig head. Now every weighting option comes in at least 2 hook sizes. This is the 4/0 size and a 1/4, but it also comes in a smaller 2/0 size, which is good for the little 3-inch strip minnow. But one thing I love about it, just like a lot of the other Berkley jig heads, it has the conical bait keeper, which is super plastics friendly. But majority of the time when I go to this more finesse style technique, I like to have a few different weighting options. Like I said today, the 1/4 ounce size seems to be the best. I'm really targeting that 8 to say 20 feet of water or so. So it gives me a decent fall rate, but yet when I get down there, I can control it nice. I can stall that bait out for these fish that are just a little bit more lethargic. That was super cool. Oh, big walleye. It's a big one. Yeah. Yeah, that was awesome. Oh, that was awesome. I'm really starting to like this little new drip minnow here. It's just a little subtle bait, but it just seems like the water temperature has cooled down. It's cold this morning, but I've been throwing at a few fish and it just real slow movement. I was throwing the Finisher earlier and it just seemed way too fast. And so I switched to that new drip minnow, just small little finesse bait, a little 1/4 ounce head on it. And I can basically really take that bait and slow it down and almost hover it right in front of those fish. Let's get this girl back. When it comes to fluke style baits, or say those very narrow soft plastics, it's really important that the rigging is perfectly straight every time, because this is really gonna allow that bait to look very natural. It's gonna track very straight. But one thing about this drip swimmer or the drip minnow is it has a slightly hollow core through the middle of it, so it makes it really easy to get your hook point to go right down the middle of this, and very user friendly for getting it perfect every time. A lot of times I'll set my jig right along the side to see where that hook point needs to come out. But with this strip swimmer, all I simply need to do is go through the very point of this bait, and there's that narrow channel. As long as I keep my hook point inside of that, there's a seam on the top of the bait where I know exactly where the middle is, and I come back out and basically push it right up to the top of the jig here, and it's gonna be perfect almost every time because of that. I simply look right down the side here. I have that bait perfectly straight up and down, which is gonna allow me to have that bait track perfectly straight. So this strip swimmer is very user friendly for rigging.
The next bite is brought to you by Mercury Marine. Go boldly. Schaefer's Specialized Lubricant. Putting equipment first. Nitro Boats. Performance Fishing Boats. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. Berkeley. Your fish, our science. Lowrance, the ultimate fishing system. And Power Pole, total boat control. Hot topics, leading information and tackling techniques to make you a better angler. Presented by Mercury.
You know, at Precision Trolling Data, we're very passionate about the pursuit of trolling for a wide variety of species. I mean, when you think about it, there's hardly a way of fishing that's more efficient than trolling. You can put lots of lures in the water. You can control the depth of where those lures are running. You can put multiple lures, so you're stacking lines, and you literally are flooding the water column with bait. So it's hard to imagine a method of fishing that's more efficient than trolling. The one thing we hear from our fishermen friends and the people that follow our app is that they want to go deeper, deeper, deeper all the time. Well, common sense would suggest if you wanted to go deeper, you could just take a larger snap weight, potentially, say a 50+3, and you could use that to go deeper. But when we tested it, we discovered that the size of the 3-ounce snap weight is so large and there's so much friction, it really didn't get you much additional depth. So we started experimenting with tadpole divers. And if you're not familiar with tadpole divers, they're made by Offshore Tackle. And we started looking at the number 3 tadpole. It actually dives. It has a dive curve of its own. And so we rigged them inline so I could put a tadpole 50 foot up the line, so a crankbait, a 3-ounce tadpole, and started testing that, and you will be amazed how deep that goes. Now, for the first time, we can get crankbaits into that 50 and 60 foot threshold, which we've never been able to do with traditional tackle before. So, haven't even named this system yet, but it'll be 50 T3 or something of that nature, but trust me, you're going to hear a lot more about how to use tadpoles in combination with crankbaits to get them deeper with Precision Trolling Data.
Forward-facing sonar is a major learning curve and has forced all anglers that are using it often to adapt in many different ways. Many different baits are being developed that are optimized for this new technology, but your bait isn't the only thing you might want to consider changing.
But today in situations like this, when we have bodies of water that have that reduced clarity, I can get uptight on that fish and it's gonna allow me to be a lot more precise with my cast. And majority of the time, it's actually gonna be an underhand flip, but this is when I go with a little bit shorter rod. This is a 6'9" medium fast, and this rod just gives me a little bit more control for that underhand flip. That lighter rod is also gonna give me a little bit more sensitivity with it, but also I'm a 10-pound Fireline guy for almost everything. So this is 10-pound Fireline to a 15-pound 100% fluorocarbon leader. Now with that reduced clarity, this being a finesse bait, I'm still gonna go with a little bit heavier fluorocarbon because the fish I've been catching and the fish that are here are quite big, you know, that 5-pound range or even bigger. But overall, this is a setup that I like to use in that close quarters pitching with forward-facing sonar. There he is. Oh my God, that thing smoked it. Which way do you want to go? Oh yeah, it's a big walleye. Oh, there he is. Yes. Oh yeah, oh, that's a nice one right there. Holy cow. Oh. I don't think he was getting off either. He's got that thing just choked in there. There was just a little piece of brush. Pliers, get this out. Just a little piece of, ooh, little piece of brush that was just sticking up right on the edge of the weeds, and this thing was sitting right on top of it, and I no more than dropped it right on it, gave it one little flick with the wrist, and boom, this thing hit. But holy cow, that was an awesome bite, because I got a little frustrated at a few of them. I thought I was maybe moving it too fast, so I was gonna slow play this one, but he jumped the gun and didn't even give me a chance to figure that out. But man, what an awesome way to catch them. You know, just forward-facing sonar teaches you so much, and just basically, to me, it's one of those things where you can really adapt on the fly for the technique that you're using. But to me, that drip minnow is just another tool in our arsenal that we can use, especially when they get a little fussy. Let's get this one back. You call her a day. Oh, you wanted to go just like I did. Forward-facing sonar, electronics, take 3. Majority of the time, you know, when I'm up on the, all right, rod, take, tip 3. Second bait or full bait or whatever, jig head, tip, take 1. Jig head, bait, tip, take 3. Ready? But to me, it's so finesse. You can be ultra finesse when you have to be, but at the same time, just pick the speed up with it. That was a cool fish there, because I seen him out at like 80 to 100 or so, just cruising like mid-level, and he was actually coming up to the surface. And when he got to about 60 feet or so, he was almost on the surface, so I made my cast like, if I can hit close to him, he's gonna bite it. And no more than I landed, maybe retrieved it like 5 feet, and I seen him just take off, and I just waited for the bite, and I mean, he just crushed it. It's just one of those things, especially, you know, time of day, weather conditions, or even like wind conditions. A lot of times these walleyes come up, and the higher they come up, the more aggressive they are. But that one was a pretty cool one, because I kind of watched him swim right to the surface, just knew I needed to get close.